Hi everyone, welcome to this Google Digital Garage session on writing for social media. I'm Annie and I've been with the Google Digital Garage for about 5 years now, and I also have been in marketing for most of my career. I additionally have had my own online business, so I know the highs, the lows, and everything in between. So hopefully I can bring something useful to the table for you today. I'm not alone. We're very fortunate to have Jo join us in the chat, and you can recognize her by her name, Jo, in blue, and a little spanner next to her name. We really would love you to engage with us because then we can support you in the best way possible. Now, just a bit of housekeeping. If you are having any problems in seeing or hearing me, simply press refresh and that often will iron out any of the problems for you. Also, if you do want to join in the chat, don't forget to sign into YouTube. It will take just a couple of minutes to do so. Now, what we're offering today is part of a wider range of courses that we have at g.co/digitalgarage. You can also follow the link just below. And all of these are aimed at helping you to grow your business. Now, without further ado, we're going to look at how we can support writing for social media in today's world. Now, first of all, we want to look at defining your brand on social media. So actually getting clarity around what that is and what it might look like for your business. And once we get that clearer, we're going to start looking at how we can make writing for social media work well and attract attention of your public, of the audience you want to attract. And finally, we're going to look at some low-cost tools for content marketing. And these are with the aim of being able to connect with your audience in the best way possible on a budget. Now, if you find that you want to go maybe into a bit more depth and you want to find out, for example, how to reach more customers online or even write a strategy, I'm really pleased to say that we're offering free mentoring one-to-one. Now, if you're a UK charity or small business, you simply go to g.co/UK mentoring and you'll be able to meet with one of our coaches who will give an hour of their time completely free of charge for you to go through how to support and grow your business. And I'm sure Jo would have kindly shared that link in the chat with you. Now, first of all, we need to look at defining our brand on social media because it's really important that we get clear on what we're offering to the people outside. So first of all, I've got a question that I want to ask you all. So please do join in the chat box. What do you think a brand tone of voice actually is? So there's no bad answers. Please just do bring any of those forward and let me know what you think. So a brand tone of voice is really critical in today's world of marketing, and I'll explain why in a moment. And what a brand tone of voice really is about is how you might speak if you were a real person like you or me. So how they might behave or how they may respond in certain situations or how they may dress. So what we're actually saying is that it's the personality of your brand or business. Now, why do you think that might be important in today's world? And why is it important generally for a business? Well, actually, as individuals, we connect with other individuals. We look for people that are relevant and related to us. And it comes back to a really old time where basically we were fearing or feeling familiar with creatures around us. So what it really is about is how we can connect with others and build that kind of relationship. Because if it's familiar and if it's relatable, then that is going to create a relationship that takes the distance, that supports us in making choices and makes them memorable to us and makes them likable to us. So what we're actually trying to do here is create a tone of voice and a personality of our business. So taking it back to your business now, if your brand or your business was a celebrity, who might it be? And I want you to think of 3 words to describe it. Now, we've given you 3 examples here on the screen, but it doesn't have to be the 3 in front of us. So we've got James Corden, personable, humble, funny. We've got George Clooney, sophisticated, laid back and smooth. And when you know that he advertises Nescafe coffee, it could make it easier for you to understand as to why with those kind of qualities. And Beyonce, strong, empowered, alluring. So have a think now. What kind of celebrities would represent your brand, do you think? What words would they use? How would they sort of behave in certain situations? Are they the people that would best represent your brand? Now, I'll let you put that into the chat over time, but thinking about your brand as a celebrity is a really good way of familiarizing yourself with what your brand stands for as a person, as a character, and how you can start to connect with your audience through that image. So people create sponsorships with celebrities, and they do that because they carry some of the values or of the personality that the business wants to represent. So do have a think in your own time about what your brand might be as a celebrity, because once you have that clear in your mind, it makes writing for social media so much easier. Now, building your tone of voice takes a few steps, a little bit of delving deeper. So what we've done is we've created a 4-step program for you today to go through. Now, hopefully, once you get that clear, your employees will then intuitively know who you are and what you stand for and what is good and what you don't want the brand to represent. But getting this down on paper is also a useful thing, even if it's just for you and you're the only one in the business at this stage, because as you grow, you want to carry those values and share with them with your team. Now, to start your tone of voice and building up that personality or persona of your brand, it all begins with your values. So, what does your brand or your business actually stand for? What does it mean to the marketplace? Is it that you're doing excellent customer service? Is it that you have the best atmosphere or unbiased reporting, for example? So, there's a business in America, a rental car business, and in that business, a person decided that they were going to challenge and take on some of their big competitors in the car rental industry. And they only had 14 cars on their forecourt. But with a bit of competitor research, they found out that actually customer service was really not good in their competitors. So they focused purely on making excellent customer service. Now, as a result, what that meant was they stood out in the marketplace and they actually then became the number one in the whole of the USA, and I believe maybe the rest of the world. So as you can see, the point I'm making here is having a value that you are strong at, you're known for, and you're building with can really make a difference to the business. And also your understanding of what you're projecting as a business. So I've just got a few points here. Taff Hamster, it's the personality of the brand? Absolutely, yes, it is. And Hendrix, what is a brand tone of voice? So that's what we're going to go through now. Thank you for asking. Beth Smith, the tone feeling of the brand's messaging. Yep. And Mr. KJ, the tone of voice describes how your brand communicates with the audience and thus influences how people perceive your messaging. Excellent answers. Thank you so much, guys. Very, very good answers. So we are looking at how we can build up that tone of voice, but we have to do it in these stages so that we're really clear as to how to underpin it. Because the first step that will shape your tone of voice is knowing what your values are, just as if you're a human being. Rather than just a brand starts to emulate those qualities. As we said, it becomes the personality. So we all start with values. That's the thing that underpins our character and what we believe and what we stand for as individuals. So having that voice within of what the values are, that channels your energy, your focus, and your knowledge about what you should offer to your general public. And it is different from your mission, because your mission is a statement of facts, whereas your values are more is what you stand for and why you do it, really. So let's have a think of values, and do try and apply this to your own businesses as well. So I'm giving you a couple of examples here on screen just to illustrate the point of what values are and what they mean and how they can work within your business. So we've got the example of Nico's Pizzeria and Hathaway Legal, two quite different businesses to illustrate this point. So Nico's Pizzeria wants to make quality pizza with fresh ingredients, provide excellent customer service, and a fast and reliable home delivery and takeaway. Now, already you're getting the feeling that those words are really important if you're wanting to buy pizza. Quality is important, customer service, and fast and reliable home delivery. So with just those key words, we can start to see the things that matter to Nico's Pizzeria and how they might want to communicate that with their public. Now, Hathaway Legal, they want to dedicate the highest level of diligence to each case, and we believe that our clients deserve a quick response. We only hire top lawyers who are trained at prestigious institutions. Now, this is key because if we're looking for legal services, we may well want people that are credible, trustworthy, so top lawyers from good institutions that are diligent and quick to respond. So being aware that they are our key values means that everyone in the company is on board and aware of what they need to do as individuals. And every communication we write and everything we do is going to be in line with those key values. So have a think now about the values that your business stands for. Try and pick 3 and how you might be able to put that into your business. So, how would you also describe a key member of your audience? So, thinking about the audience here, we want to try and speak to a specific group. So, we're going to do that by looking at what we call a pen portrait. And the reason we do that is if we try and write for everyone, we actually write for nobody. It doesn't speak to anybody. It becomes spam. And actually, the process of marketing is about making things specific to groups so that we can build those like-minded relationships that we talked about earlier, building up that personality. So, for example, if you think of Coca-Cola, it stands for fun, it stands for positivity. And we might see that in anything from the colours to the way that they talk and what they do. So when we create content, we want to think about who we're also creating it for. What individuals are we aiming our content at? Because marketing is about reducing down from speaking to everyone and speaking to a specific group of people who are most likely to want to buy or connect with us through our products and services. So we might think that everyone wants to buy everything from us, but there will be people more interested than others. So we're going to have a look at some examples now for Nico's and also for Hathaway Legal. So Nico's Pizzeria, Simon, they've identified as being one of the key people that might buy from them. So Simon is a young single professional in his late 20s. He works full-time in advertising. He lives in Brighton. He leads a very busy work and social life, and he has a big appetite for adventure. A keen athlete who enjoys playing football, but also go to his local bar with his mates to watch televised sporting events. Now, as you can see with this pen portrait here, we can see a day in the life of Simon or a slice of life that he is experiencing. So we know what he does as a job. We know where he lives geographically. We know what he's interested in. And this will help us to speak directly to him in what we write and what we do. So Hathaway Legal has a very different audience, and they've identified Sally as one of their pen portraits. And Sally's in her early 30s. She's single and she's first time buying a new apartment in Leeds city centre. She works for an insurance company, enjoys reading the newspaper and drinking a macchiato at a nearby coffee shop. She's a tech fanatic and enjoys getting the latest gadgets. She's graduated with a degree in history. She's a bit of a grammar nerd and appreciates quality. So already we could see that the way that we would write for Sally is entirely different from the way we would communicate with Simon. Sally is going to care about her grammar, so we're going to have to look carefully at how we write. She also hangs out in certain locations and has a certain mindset around reading the paper and getting involved in tech. So we can start to see the type of content that we might want to craft and create for them, as well as the kind of people they are. So it gives us a visual in our minds of who we're talking to so that we can build those strong relationships just as we do in the real world. So what do we need to have in that user pen portrait? So there's different things we can do, such as buyer personas that we can create as well, and HubSpot offer those. So HubSpot by a persona, have a quick Google of it and it will show you some ways of doing this. But the key things we're looking for when we're talking about a pen portrait is things like their marital situation, their age, where they live, their job titles, their hobbies, and even their talents or their ambitions. By doing this, we can start to build up different sorts of information and content bank to appeal to that sort of a person. So now we're going to look at how we can describe the personality of your business. So if you think back earlier, we looked at a few celebrities as examples of how we might be able to represent ourselves through a celebrity. Now we want to look at how we can communicate better online, and we want to think about adjectives to do that. So here's some examples. Nico's Pizzeria are using the words charm, authenticity, and family. Already with these words, we can start to feel and sense what the environment of Nico's Pizzeria might be like. We can, with just words, you can start to feel it, can't you? You can visualize what it might look like, what it might feel like, and what the experience might give you. And having those words clear in your mind makes it easier to create and compile content around it. There's also Hathaway Legal, powerful, efficient, experienced. Now, having these words, we can start to see how we might write, how we might connect with our audience, and what our audience cares about. So if they care about these things, we need to show in every communication and every touch point that we are powerful, that we are efficient, and that we are experienced, because that is how we will build the credibility and trust in our brand. The other thing that we might want to do, even before we start a business, is to create some guidelines of do's and some guidelines of don'ts. Now, the reason why we'd create guidelines is to create something that can be passed around and shared with the team or with extended teams as they grow. And also to remind ourselves and anchor ourselves in what we're here to do and why we're here. So a part of that is looking at the do's and the don'ts, what we do want to say and what we don't want to say in our correspondence. And that can be anything from writing a letter to what we put on our social media pages, how we run our communities. So it can be ways of greeting people. It can be ways of thanking people. It can be how you describe your products, or it could be how you describe your customer and whether you're formal or informal. So there's many different things we need to consider when looking at our choice of words. So again, looking at our two examples here, we've got Nico's Pizzeria, and the words that they do want to be known for are fresh, welcome, appetizing. Those words make it really inviting to us. And we can see from that that there's a family focus, that it is friendly, welcoming, and we get an idea of what the brand stands for in terms of the person. We can probably picture them in our minds as to somebody who's going to be welcoming us with open arms at their restaurants, who's going to make us feel part of their family. But what words they don't want to use are customer or restaurant. And these are very formal words. So they want to be more informal, more casual, more family orientated, because with those more formal words, you can already imagine and visualize it would be a very different restaurant. Hathaway Legal prefers to have a more professional stance. So they have kind regards, excellent, and thank you. However, that is quite accessible language, but professional language too. So they want to be accessible, but they also don't want to be too informal, should we say. So best wishes, cheers, fab, thanks, not the words that they're wanting to use. So have a think now about the kind of words that you do and don't want to use within your brand guidelines. You also want to include in there the kind of visuals you want to use. What kind of logo might you have in there? What colours? Will you have a grayscale? Will you have a certain colour that you stand for? You might have heard of Soap and Glory as a brand, and they are known for their nostalgic imagery, and you quickly can see what they are standing for when you see the imagery. So have a think about the visuals you'll use within that brand guidelines document as well. So within there, you want to have your values, your do's, your don'ts, and also your visuals that you might use and the content that you might want to create. So I'm just going to pause now for any questions. It doesn't look like there's any coming through at the moment. Please do share any of your questions our way. We want to help and engage with you in all ways possible. So please do keep them coming. So now we're going to look at writing for social media. So how are we going to actually craft our messaging and put it forward? Now, nowadays, we are having to think carefully about the way that we write online because there is just so many competitors and so many people out there. But there's some guiding principles for writing for social media that we want to look at in order to try and cut through and get noted. So the first thing is, we love this quote. I would have written a shorter letter, but I didn't have the time. Now, we don't know if this was Blaise Pascal or if it was Winston Churchill, but the meaning is important because actually we really live in a time-poor society, and we need to know that we can fit everything into also a small character count. Because if you think of platforms such as Twitter, we have very little room for getting our message across. So it's good practice to keep trying to pin down some key points into short bullets as well, so that we don't get too flowery. And why do we want to think about that? Because, well, sadly, the human attention span was 8.25 seconds, and it's probably declined even more. And I don't know of the recent stats, but in the last few years with the pandemic. So attention spans are just not there. And it gets even more crazy when we think about social media, because we're actually writing for the goldfish. We're looking at about 3 seconds on social media now, and maybe less. So what we have to think about is, when we're scrolling and we're moving our thumb, what is going to stop us and engage us and keep us interested? Because we have to write for the goldfish. We have to engage our public, and we have to do it quickly and meaningfully. So back to that writing in short form, writing and getting to the point, it's quite important to get our headlines in a way that will attract attention. So another piece of news is that we can assume, although this may be controversial, that your reader will only read the first half of your sentence. So think about it yourselves. When you're looking on social media, do you read very quickly glancing, or do you go into depth? The chances are you're probably looking at the first sentence, and if it attracts your attention, you're more likely to go into it. So this applies also to videos. So imagine they're only going to watch 2 or 3 seconds. So we want to get the best bit really up front so that we can engage them immediately, and so that they're intrigued enough to carry on. And the way to get people intrigued is to know who we are talking to and to make it focused around the user. So a big part of our writing and our content design is about resolving problems for the user, their pain points, and answering those pain points. We might want to look at a day in the life of what will our product or service do to be able to answer their pain points. A really good example of this is an accountant, and she set up her own practice, and she started doing her own filming through her phone, and she shared, it was called The Journey is Real, and she shared her own journey of starting up a business, because she realized that her pen portrait was small, medium-sized startup businesses like her, and that they would have gone or will go through a similar journey. And it was sort of like a way of being very honest and hand-holding through the process. So what she did was she filmed her pain points and took the audience through a day in the life of her every single day as she built a business. And what happened was the audience started to really relate to her because they were going through the same. They started to be advocates for her and ambassadors for her, and her business grew and grew and grew. And now it's an award-winning company. And she actually creates events that are fully attended, even through COVID times. Well, obviously in the safe points, she would get people together. So she built the community online and got them offline, and that built it further and wider. So she recognized their pain points. She recognized that they had concerns over building their business, even on personal levels. So it's not just the business level, but also the personal well-being that people go through as they start a business that you may well relate to. And so she talked about that really honestly and with authenticity, which is what her audience also want. And that really did build up her brand. So think about what it is your audience are looking for. Are they wanting to bust their boredom? Do they want to be entertained? Do they want to learn something new? Or do they want to win something, for example? And think about how you can motivate your audience to do the actions you want them to do. But also remember that this is not about selling on social media. It's about building up that relationship. And just as in the real world, if you're building a relationship, you want to know about your partner, then you want to know about the audience and they want to know about you. So you're building up a slow and gradual relationship by answering their pain points and noting their motivators. So what drives them, what they care about, and showing that you actually do care and are responsive to them as well. So what we're also looking at is benefits versus features. Now, many of you may already be doing this, or some of you may not at this moment, but benefits are the thing that as customers, we do all the time. We look for the benefits, what's in it for me. And the features are more about the specification of the product or service that is kind of an afterthought for many of us. So looking at features versus benefits and thinking about the difference, we're going to give an example here of the new gadget watch. So the features are, it's waterproof up to 5M, 5mm thick glass, and comes in black, white, gold, or blue, and it has a spherical interface. Does any of that make you think, let me take out my card and buy that watch? Probably not. However, if you hear that that watch, you can take it swimming, it's smash resistant, you can choose a colour to suit your personality, and it has comfort and style, suddenly you have a completely different feeling about the watch. It has a complete style to it, and it reflects you and your values as a customer. And so your values and the benefits come together because you want to see that watch in action on your arm, and it sounds exciting because perhaps that is who you're talking to, someone who's adventurous, a Bond type character. So the new gadget watch, it's more likely to be sold through benefits. So think more in benefits as opposed to features, because remember, as a customer, you yourself will do the same. So earlier we talked about how can we reduce what we want to say, and Blaise and potentially Winston Churchill's quote about writing a shorter letter. So here we're looking at the first line being important. So we looked at why we might first read just one line and move on because of our fast-paced world and our attention spans. So here we've got some examples. Boost your CV with a free digital marketing course. So the chances are, if you know it's free and you want your CV updating, you're going to read on. Get product and engineering on the same page. Product roadmap software. So as you can see, if you're working in that industry and you're feeling those silos are apart, you're going to want to know how to do that. So you're going to read on from that point, but you want to know the benefit first because you're not going to hang around. Or get a free coffee roasting kit when you try 3 bags of our roasting coffee. So they've already got your attention, whereas if you said try 3 bags and then you can have our coffee, you're thinking, oh, I don't want to have to do anything. But because you know already there's a benefit up front, you're more likely to take an interest. So always write with the benefit first. Try and use clear and simple versus complicated language. As we said, the time is so short and depleted in the online world. We really don't have time to take anything in. And you yourselves as customers will think about buying things that are easy to understand. Whereas if it starts to get really complex, you turn off. Your attention span will reduce and go to sleep. So using clear and simple versus complicated language is a way to actively engage with your public and keep them interested. So have a think about how you can make it reduced in terms of the headline and getting the benefit up front, but also making it really clear and communicated what you are wanting to express. And do that across all your communications, not just your headline. So for example, if we're looking at clear and simple language, we're wanting something that's reader friendly, something that can be scanned. So for example, bullet points rather than entire chunks of text. If you think about many blog articles these days, it's much easier when you can see bolded words, subheaders, and quick bullets because we are time poor, but we want to get to the meat and the bones of it. So often people write 7 points or 9 points, 11 points, for example. So we know how many points we've got to go through. They'll bullet them and they'll highlight them in bold. And these sort of approaches keep us engaged and keep us interested. And they help us to navigate through the material nice and easily and simply. Whereas if we start using technical terms or internal language, jargon, acronyms, flowery language, we might think that this makes us sound established, but actually people are coming to us because if they want to know more about the product or service, and they might not know it themselves. So we are the experts in there. And to be the expert, we need to make it nice and simple. So breaking it down and making it accessible is the way forward in writing for social media, because otherwise we can lose somebody through language that isn't necessary. Remember about breaking that down to what we need to get across. And we can still write long content as well as short content, but we want to break it up with those bullets and with those clear and simple headlines. So what we really want to do overall is cut the copy, but maintain the meaning. So have a think about how you might be able to do that with any of your correspondence going forward and put that together as part of your plan. And think about creating a plan for your content. Now, there's a content calendar on Hootsuite, again, HubSpot, I believe, that you can download. And have a look at building up your content around that and maybe putting in some simple headlines and put the benefit first in there so that you know what you're going to correspond and share with your audience in advance. You can also try a tool called buzzsumo.com. That's BUZZSUMO.com. And if you're struggling for content ideas, that's a brilliant place to start. So it is a paid tool, but you can have a free trial, I believe, with a keyword once a month. And it's keyword led. And you go into that. To BuzzSumo, and it will have different departments for you to look at. So there's an area that talks about influencers, and you'll be able to find people that talk about the products and services you do. And when you do that, you'll be able to link up with them. They also have some really useful things for content. And what they've done is list the top performing posts using your keywords so that you can create or recreate content around those. So have a think about using that content as well and putting it into your content calendar. So the next thing we're going to look at is handling complaints on social media. Now, nearly every business out there, or all businesses, at some point will have a complaint. Whether it's from a jealous competitor or whether it's from the general public, complaints will happen. Now, it doesn't really matter where they come from, but how we handle them is all important because they are visible, they are public, and people will recognize it. And again, as we said earlier, we're building a relationship and we are becoming a person to those individuals out there. So to create the right environment and the right person for the business, we need to be looking credible. We need to be responsive, and we have to think about how we can satisfy our public in a way that we would want to be satisfied also as customers. So has anyone had a customer complaint before and had it dealt with well or badly? Please do share in the comments box because I'd love to talk to you about it. But what does happen is it can actually build an opportunity if you have critique on social media, if you respond in a really good way. But it can also damage your brand if you don't respond at all or you respond badly. So the idea is to create positive communication and remember that negative can also be sometimes created or often into positives. So the first thing we need to do is to take an active voice. So this will be about writing clear, concise, and to the point, and taking charge and responsibility for it. So rather than sort of blaming or finding excuses, we want to take an active role in whatever is being said. So the first thing we must do is avoid passive language. We want to think as consumers that we are taken seriously, and this is a great way to demonstrate that. The next thing is to be genuinely concerned and thoughtful about how you can fix the problem for the customer. So this is not about empty empathizing. This is about not saying stuff you don't mean. It's about saying what you're going to do and how you're going to do it and by when. So really giving an action plan as to how you're going to fix the problem for them so that they know they're heard. I don't know how many of you have been involved with brands where they say they care, but they're actually acting in the complete opposite way. So especially if, say, your brand value is customer service, you've got to reflect that in everything you do. And that includes being responsive and fixing any of the problems that may arise to anyone who puts them out there. And remember, being jokey has a time or place. Now, a long time ago now, I think it was T-Mobile or Tesco Mobile, they identified that some of their target group at the time were very keen on Star Wars. And they had a problem and they managed to fix it through understanding their audience, having the right tone of voice and connecting with them through jokes. And it actually turned things around and became a success rather than a negative impact for the brand in how they managed it. But for example, if there's money involved, if it's a banking issue, if it's something serious, don't be jokey because it does have a time or place. But if it is something comical and you can come back with tongue or cheek, that shows the human in you. And particularly if your audience has that sense of humor, it's a really great way to connect with them and show them that you're one of them. Sign off with a name. Does anybody want to suggest why that might be the case? So signing off with a name is really important because signing off with a name means you are accountable as an individual, as a human. And somebody who is reading that needs to feel they're talking to a person rather than just to outer space or to the ether. And so having a name means they can also feel there's someone they can reach back out to and contact again, or at least they can imagine who they're talking to. So signing off with a name means that you are taking accountability as an individual and that you can be connected with and responded to as well. Now, I just want you to think about how you may handle this complaint on the screen here. So there's no wrong answers. There's no silly answers. Please do share your thoughts on this. So what the customer is saying is, look, I ordered a mobile from your company last week, but when it arrived, it was badly damaged. When I called to complain, I was rudely told you don't accept returns and that I need to contact the delivery company for compensation. Is this really how you treat loyal customers? I will never buy from you again. Hopeless. So have you had this experience or type of experience with a company before, and how did it make you feel? Generally speaking, if they respond in a way that is negative at this point, you're likely never going to buy from them again. So you have to take this on board as a careful approach as to how you could answer this. So I'm just going to see if anybody wants to share anything here. Nothing coming through at the moment. So the first thing I think that you need to consider is how your customer feels at this point. So they're saying it's badly damaged. And they're saying you're not accepting returns, and they've already been told that there's no compensation. So unless they go to the delivery company, which sounds like more work on top of what's already happened. So they're feeling really hopeless. So what could we do? So here's an example response. Hello, customer. Our sincere apologies for the inconvenience caused and the poor customer service you have received. It fell below our usually high standards. We value your patronage and will launch a full investigation into why our team provided you with misinformation and didn't treat you with the full respect you deserve. Please contact me on my direct email and we can organise a full compensation or replacement for you. Now, this is important, isn't it? Because first of all, we are taking responsibility, aren't we? What do you think of this? So we're taking responsibility and we're saying that we're not happy with the standards that are there. Yes, thank you, Tough Hamster. Personal touch and responsibility. Absolutely. It's got a really good degree of personal touch and it is taking responsibility because as a customer, you want to feel that this isn't what they would usually do and that actually they do admit it's happened, but they are very apologetic. And we've got Ferro59, you should talk with your customer in private. Thank you. Absolutely brilliant response. Yes, that as well. So what you're saying is, go to my direct email, because if you do talk publicly to your customer, first of all, that isn't giving the privacy that the customer might want, but also, what do we think might happen if we, for example, offer a public compensation of a completely new phone based on what they've told us just online? Well, it may well be that we end up giving everyone a free phone and we'll go out of business. So first of all, we do need to check what actually the process is, what has happened and how it happened, and then, consider any kind of compensation in a private way. So yes, brilliant answers. Thank you, Ferro59 and Taff Hamster as well. So we've signed off also with a name. So Hannah is taking responsibility for this. So we can see that somebody is in charge of this particular issue. And when she's saying with my direct email, she's not put her direct email on there, because that also could be problematic, because people might just take that email and scurry off with it. So it sounds like she's showing that she's communicating with him in a private manner, and it is the best way to manage the complaint. Now, I've just gone into questions, and there's a couple here from Beth Smith. Thank you so much for sharing these. So, thoughts on using capitals on the first line of social posts, e.g. property investment emoji, this 3-bedroom single family, etc., etc. Thank you, Beth Smith. Very good point. Yes, you don't really want to be doing full capitalized approaches on your social media with certain words in particular, because it can look spammy. So it's great to use capitalized first letters, and perhaps you might want to try and see how it works with certain words, but some words should be left out altogether, such as look what you've won, sounds a bit spammy, for example. And if we're doing that in capitals, we need to think about it. So be careful about the capitals you use and how you use them, because it's a bit shouty. And if your personality doesn't want to shout, it can sound a bit off-putting. So yes, be very selective, and usually just use it for the first letters rather than the whole words, unless there's a particular trial you want to do, say on an advert of one advert against another. But many ads will be not allowed on social media if you use full capitalization, and also using, for example, exclamation marks. But yes, thank you for sharing that. And Beth Smith, also, how many benefits would you say per post? I typically go for 3 points. So again, it's a little bit kind of trial and error again. There's no specific answers to this really, because it depends on your audience. It depends on what your offer is and what your brand is saying, and what you want to achieve as a goal for each of your social media posts. There's never a one size fits all, but ideally, you want to focus on the key benefit that will matter to your audience, to your users. So try and think of one key point. And yes, if 3 work, you'll have your insights to see what works and what doesn't. But monitor it very carefully, because with that attention span that we know is depleting, we might want to talk about the key main benefits to the user and get that across. But again, it depends on the kind of post you're doing and the kind of service or product you're offering as to how many you want to illustrate. So for example, with the gadget watch, a high ticket price item, you may want to show its new benefits and features as you launch the product, and get those main benefits across. So again, sorry, I can't answer that with a one-size-fits-all approach, Beth, but very good questions, because they are the kind of things that you need to be considering. So I hope that helps. So now we're going to finally end our session today with a toolkit for content marketing. Now, I mentioned BuzzSumo, and BuzzSumo is a really good toolkit. We also want to think about scheduling posts, because the chances are we don't have lots and lots of time available to be sitting and posting posts. So we've got reactive and proactive posts, and we want to have a bit of both. So our proactive posts are in our calendar, what we create around a given month or a given theme, or both. And what we want to put within that is a very clear scheduling of content that will go out at specific times. And we also want to think about a mission per each of our social media platforms, ideally. And we don't want to create the same content for each of those platforms. So we think about mission for our platform and also some scheduling of posts. So some of the tools we can use for scheduling posts are Hootsuite, Buffer, and there's many others as well. And some that are good for analytics for small and medium-sized businesses are things like Sprout Social. Now, they are a costly site for a small business, but they are giving us some really good insight once we have a certain amount of following. So in the meantime, we can use our own insights and our own metrics that are on the Facebook page, for example, or Twitter pages, where we can look at our insights. But many tools that we might want to consider. To learn more as well about social media strategy, we do have a session on social media strategy at g.co/digital garage, and you'll be able to find out more about when that's on, and it runs reasonably regularly. So one of the things we also want to think about when we're looking at our tools for social media, once we've created our content, scheduled our content, is ensuring that the content is written well. So we've already talked about bulleting it, making it sizable chunks and easy stackable content to read. But what we also want to do is to make sure that our grammar is right. So we know already, for example, with Sally, the pen portrait for Hathaway Legal, that grammar is so important to many people. And one of the tools for grammar is one called Grammarly.com. So that's Grammarly.com. And I'm sure that Joe will kindly share that with you in the chat box too. Now, it is an Americanized version, so please do be careful with some of it, but it gives you a really good head start in getting your grammar up to speed. And you can also add it as an extension on your browser, so it's really useful to have set up. Other tools that you might want to look at is PicMonkey. There are Giphy and many other design tools out there as well that you might want to consider with that. The next is about visuals. So they say that a visual can paint 10,000 words. So making sure our visuals say what we want them to say is really critical and key. And a good way of creating eye-capturing imagery is using something called Viscocam. So that's VSCOCAM. And this is a nice and easy photo editing app. So you might want to give this a go. And what it does do is it keeps all your edits nicely available to you, and it also keeps it consistent. So what you want to create is a one voice, one look appeal for your brand. As we say, we want to be recognizable instantly through color, words, visuals that we use. So using something like Viscocam helps us to design something that can be consistent and bring up that theme on a regular basis for us. Another tool that made me save a lot of money as a business owner is something called Canva.com. So that's Canva.com. And Canva is absolutely brilliant when using social media. Now, there's a paid version and a free version, and for business, there is a paid option, but you can trial it on the free to see what you think about it. But Canva offers many different templates in different sizes for social media already pre-made for you. So whether you want to make a post for Facebook or Instagram, it already has done the hard work in all the dimensions. You can upload your logo and you can choose from many, many templates, both free and chargeable ones. They also have flyers and leaflets that you can create on Canva as well. So it's a real must-have tool for you to use. And the templates are fantastic. So it can help you with building, even if you're business to business, some nice presentations as well for you. So have a look at that. Some other tools that you might want to look at are graphic design apps. So having a look around word swag, for example, that helps to take words and bring them to life and make your graphics stand out on your social channels is a really nice way of bringing those motivational cues around. So many of us might do Motivational Monday or something like that, and that's where these kind of tools can really add some benefit to you. Now, we do have low attention spans, but we do connect with people. And the better way to connect with people is bringing that person to life. Now, the business might be yours. And if it's yours, you can do what that accountant lady did and be the brand, be the face of the business if you so wish. And if you want to do that, a great way is to do the regular videos. And you can do this just with a smartphone and a stick and a load of confidence. Because nowadays, the technology within your phones is just as effective as some really high level equipment in many cases. And we also like the real, we like the authentic, we like the genuine. So this is a lovely way of allowing people to be introduced to you and be your own cameraman and take yourself on that journey through what your customers' eyes would be. And many times you might want to share sort of the start of your business, what's happening behind the scenes, new employees, or for example, how-to content. And you can do that just with a smartphone and a selfie stick and, as I say, a bit of confidence. So have a think about how you can bring to life your content in a visual way, because with video, there's motion and sound involved. So that can really give another dimension. If you're on the internet, you often look at things in a 2D way. So it's very text heavy, and that, as we said, takes a while to take in. So whilst that's useful content to have, it's nice also to have the motion and sound and the visuals, because if we are connecting with people, they are more dynamic than the written word. So bringing that to life wherever possible with video is a really good way of connecting with our public and letting them know about us. So I want to try and talk to you now about your thoughts on what's going on. But while you're thinking about whether you want to stand in front of a camera or not, think about what your brand really does stand for. So let's go back now to what the ingredients of our brand was very quickly, and what our tone of voice will be. And think about where your brand is. So what brand values does your brand have? So hopefully, by the end of this session, you've got an idea about what you want to stand for. What are you going to do differently or better than your competitors? They say that if you do one thing brilliantly, then you will be a success. So consider what that one thing could be. The next is building up that user pen portrait. So illustrating who you're talking to rather than to a crowd, you're speaking one-to-one. Who is that person you're talking to? Would it be a Sally? Would it be a Simon? Would it be someone completely different? What would they be interested in? And really here, you're looking at a group of people and how they may best represent your product or service. And once you get that in your mind, you can start to tailor and create your content. Think about how you would speak to them. What would you say? What words wouldn't you say? How would you sign off? How would you show your formality or informality? What kind of things do you stand for? Do attend our Build Your Personal Brand online session if you're the face of the company, because you can really bring it to life if you're the front person of the business. And if not, have a look more at the strategy as well to build up an entire approach to your content. And be careful with your words, because words have meaning. They carry great weight. And however we treat customers in the online world is how people will remember us and how they will talk about us to others. So that is our tone of voice and how we speak to people. And then we need to think about our benefits and how we communicate with them. So, any questions? It sounds like no questions are coming through at this stage. So I hope even if you've just taken one thing from today's session, that you do know better who you might be speaking to, that you might have an idea as to why your brand is going to be the important brand for your customers over your competitors. I hope that you think about what that means to your audience in terms of values and content, what kind of content you may craft in terms of benefits, and how you may make your product or service stand out against any others. Because in those few seconds we have online, which are very few seconds, we need to communicate a meaning with our customers that make us stop, pay attention, and want to read on or listen on to our information. So please consider how you can connect and communicate with your audience. Also, do think about the kind of tools you're going to use. Will you use Canva? Will you use Viscocam? How will you make it more visual? And even tonight, maybe you could create a plan of attack as to how you're going to bring to life that personality, that tone of voice, and that content to really resonate with your audience. So plan that into your content calendar that you can find on Hootsuite and also on HubSpot, and put together what you're going to say and how you're going to communicate. And really important thing to do is also to mix up the content types. So whether that be written and whether that be video or sound, using different content types appeals to different people because we all have different learning styles and different learning capacities. So what we want to do is to try and attract people through those different mediums to make them interested and know about our product and service. So think about different kinds of content we might do, and also themes. So think about the themes you might want to run. Is there a day of the week that you want to, for example, be doing motivational stuff? Is there a national day that you want to add into your calendar? Have a Google of national days and events. And remember to use the BuzzSumo tool to get into knowing what content has worked well in the past, how often they've shared it, how interesting it's been to people in the past. Because by doing that, you'll be able to build on the success of other brands that have worked well. And don't forget to look at your competitors and what they're doing. All too often, we can be really focused on just ourselves and our own business that we forget what else is around us. But actually, our competitors are key to letting us know what's coming next, what works well, what works badly. So I've just been talking whilst I've been waiting for questions, and I've just had one from Ferro59. Is it necessary writing in a formal way when we're writing for social media? Absolutely not. It all depends on your personality, your tone of voice. So if you want to be formal or informal, that is completely down to the kind of character you want to be as a business and also the product or service you represent. So I talked about the accountant. Now, accountancy has been known for being very formal in the past, and that can sometimes really put customers off and not trust accountants. And actually, we need to be able to trust accountants because we're putting a lot of faith in them with all of our business and our money. So this accountant recognized that and saw it as an opportunity to open up an informal approach and to share, as I say, her day in the life of being an accountant or growing a practice, because that's exactly what her customers needed and exactly what her customers were also doing. So she hasn't taken a formal approach. She has taken a very informal one, even though it's considered a formal industry. So it really does depend on you as an individual, your audience as your customers, and what you're wanting to stand for as a business. But when it comes to, for example, managing customer complaints, maybe then we'll think more formally. As we said, there's a time for being jokey, and it may well be that if we are running an accountancy firm, if there's a complaint, even if we are an informal person in the general sense, when the complaint happens, we want to pass it to someone in the team that takes it very seriously and is formal in their approach in responding to it. But as a general rule, in our content, in our communication, in the way that we style our writing and also how we speak to our audiences, we can choose whether we want to be formal or informal and what works best for us. And I've given the example there of someone that is fronting a company that is running it and is able to be the face of the business. And that might not always be possible. So do have a think about what works best for your brand. And if you're behind the scenes, what you want your brand to stand for. So for example, Coca-Cola, we don't know the face of the company, but we do know that it stands for fun, positivity, and energy. So that may be something we can get across with visuals as well as writing. So let's have a look then at our next steps. So I've mentioned a few courses that you might want to have a look at throughout this session. One of them was the social media strategy. The other was building your personal brand. And there is also YouTube Your Brand. So if you are wanting to take the step into video, then have a look at YouTube Your Brand, and please do take a look. Also, don't forget about the g.co/UK mentoring if you're wanting some one-to-one guidance and advice. This is really valuable because no matter what the topic, whether it's reaching new customers online or building a strategy, there's someone who can give you some best practice tips. So it's worth connecting with them whilst that's available and making use of it wherever possible. So thank you so much for today. And I know attention spans are short and you've got through an hour in an afternoon, and I'm very grateful for your time and attention. Even if there's just one thing that you take away today, I hope it is going to make a difference in some way to your business. And I have been so happy to run this session and so pleased to have virtually met you. Please do share in the chat one thing that you've taken from this session and one thing you've learned. And I just want to wish you all the very best of success in business. And when things are hard, hold on tight, because the good times are coming. And very much thank you for your time again, and see you again in a future session. Goodbye.